Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. You may notice there's a little bit of a difference, the main thing being my hair. I shaved it off for charity, and the charity that I did it for was Motor Neuron Disease Association, and I'll link them in the bio if you'd like to find out a little bit more about them and what they do. And yeah, they're a great charity and they don't get enough recognition for what they do, so you should check them out. So as you can see from the title, this video is about genetic testing, and it's quite a heavy subject. So if this is my disclaimer, if you are not into that kind of thing, you don't want to be upset possibly by this video, because I will be touching on subjects such as death and serious illness and terminal illnesses, then this video is not for you. So kindly just click off. It's not a problem. If you still want to find out about it, I'll put some information in the bio box, and hopefully you can still gain what you wanted to gain from watching it, just without the upsetness. So first of all, what is genetic testing? So genetic testing is where you could find out from having your blood taken or an oral swab. You can find out basically if there's anything that's in your genetic makeup, i.e. your DNA, that can and will affect you disease-wise or illness-wise. So some people might have this, say for instance, if they are planning to have a child and they may have serious illnesses that run in their family, such as cancer or dementia, or in this case, which we'll be talking about, is motor neuron disease and dementia, actually. Frontal lobe dementia, to be precise. So specifically, the gene that I will be talking about is called C9orf72, and that just sounds like a random bunch of letters and numbers, and it is basically. Unless you have gone through genetic testing, it's not going to mean anything to you. And for me, my first contact with this was when two people in my family were diagnosed with motor neuron disease. And you may have heard about this disease, and you may not have heard of it. The most famous kind of case of motor neuron disease was Stephen Hawking's, and he lived with the disease for a very long time. But a lot of people don't get that shot, and they don't have the facilities or access to major revolutionary technology that he did. But nevertheless, the disease is what I'm going to be talking about, and this gene, C9orf72, can cause frontal lobe dementia and or motor neuron disease. And two people, as I said, in my family were diagnosed with motor neuron disease. And bear in mind, this disease is very rare, and it does affect up to 5,000 people in the UK at any one time, which is quite a lot of people. And it doesn't get the same recognition as cancer or cancer research. The Motor Neuron Disease Association charity doesn't get as much notoriety, and there's been a few more high profile people who have been in the news that have this disease, one of which was on ITV News last night. That would be Monday night in the UK. He used to play for Rangers football team, and he's really, really ill. He's so sick. and he's doing a lot more awareness. What is motor neuron disease? Okay, so motor neuron disease is a life-limiting, rapidly progressing disease that affects the brain and the spinal cord. Motor neuron disease attacks the nerves that control movements, so muscles can no longer work. It does not usually affect the senses, for example, your sight, your taste, your hearing, and touch, but it does affect your ability to move and to communicate, because your tongue is a muscle, and eventually it will kill you. There's no cure. And that's the saddest part about this disease, because it doesn't have a cure, and there is no going back once you have this diagnosis. That's it. It's only going to end one way. And there are always revolutionary, new, pioneering things that come out in the science aspect of it with research and stuff, but that requires funding. Hence why for the second year in a row I shaved my head, to raise awareness and to raise money, because that money goes straight to helping people and it will directly affect someone. And I mean, last year when I did it, I raised nearly £800, and with that money that bought a tablet so that a person who is suffering with that disease can communicate. And I mean, that is so worth it. I mean, hair is just hair to me. You know, I do it every year, and to know that directly affected and helped someone and improved their quality of life even slightly, just to be able to communicate, which is the most basic thing that we do as humans, was just overwhelming. The disease itself has affected my family twice over, and for me, when my nana died, which was 11 years ago this year, we didn't know about this gene. It wasn't until my mum's cousin in Australia, she started getting sick, and that's when, you know, we found out it was motor neuron disease. So for it to be so rare and yet affect two very closely related people in my family was quite concerning. So it wasn't until after she passed away, which was very quickly, I'm not sure the exact time frame, but my nana was diagnosed, and she died 6 months later. So just to give you an idea of how rapidly aggressive some strains of this disease can be. I know that my mum's cousin died very quickly as well, so unfortunately it seems like this gene that we have in our family causes the most aggressive form, which is just, you know, which is just typical. But anyway, gene tests came about, and my mum had some correspondence with her family in Australia, and her other cousins were saying that they were going to be tested. And a lot of people in the family felt like they didn't want to have the test. They didn't want to know. They'd rather be, you know, just focusing on what's happening with them today, and they'll think about tomorrow. And that's fine. I mean, it's totally their right. I mean, it's such a huge thing to go through and to find out, and how it affects you physically as well as mentally. Just knowing that piece of information, I can totally see why some people wouldn't. But for my mum, she felt like she needed to have it, because obviously she has both me and my sister to think about. So she had the test, and it's just a simple blood test, but you have to be referred through your GP, and she went to the Queen's Square, the London University Hospital for Neurology in London, and she had the blood test, and, you know, I have all of her permission to speak about this. Her result was positive, so she has the gene. So the next step was, well, you know, what happens now to my two daughters. So they told her if you have the gene, it's 50% chance of passing it on to a child. So then both me and my sister started to go through the process of being tested. My sister was tested. She got her results quite quickly, and her result was negative, which is just the biggest relief because she has two very young children. So I thought, if either of us is going to get it, I'd rather it not be her. So I went through and was referred through my GP, and I went to Queen Square, same as my mum, and you have to have like a whole rigmarole first. You have to be assessed psychologically by a professor of genetics who explains everything to you, the whole process, what it means, what happens, where you go from there, and it's a very lengthy, in-depth process. And I went through it. I had the first appointment, and he told me, about a month later you'll get an appointment to come back. We'll have another quick chat, and then you'll go off round the corner, literally, and have your blood test. And then it will probably be another 3 to 4 weeks after that you'll get your result. So I did that, and I came through to London, central London, and I had my mum and dad with me. And I went through to speak to the professor, and he told me that unfortunately I have the gene. So, my immediate reaction was just to burst into tears, basically. That was, it was a huge shock, but at the same time I had sort of convinced myself before going that I had the gene. I just had a gut feeling, and I just knew it. I just knew that I have it. And it's so funny, when they say trust your gut, it couldn't have been more like related to this situation. It's exactly that. I knew that I had it, and then the result was positive. And as much as I tried to convince myself, yeah, okay, I think I've got it, it's totally different to when you hear that you have this gene. Basically, the professor explained to me, what this means, and he said it doesn't mean that you're going to get the disease, motor neuron disease, or frontal lobe dementia, but there is a chance that you will get it. So this is why you have to be assessed psychologically first. So where does this leave me? Basically, my first reaction obviously was to be upset, which is just a natural reaction, I think, to hearing that you have something that could affect you later on in life, and could mean you don't necessarily have a nice ending to your life. And that's something that you have to internalize, and you have to have a very deep conversation with yourself about now what is important to me, what isn't important to me, and just go from there. But mostly for me, what my immediate feeling, apart from being upset, was I was worried about having children, because this is where this is where it starts to affect me. But for me, I feel like I really need that in my life, and I need that. I need to be a mum at some point in my life, and to have that possibility where that might not be possible or might be made extremely difficult is what has been so hard to get through since receiving my result, which was over a month ago now. And the professor explained to me that there's a new form of IVF where they take your eggs and they test them for the gene, and they discard the ones that aren't okay, and then they fertilise the ones that are good, that don't have the gene and aren't affected. And the same with regular postcard IVF. You get three rounds of IVF, and anything beyond that, if it's not successful, you have to pay for. So again, that's something that I have had to do a lot of soul searching about, because I am single and I'm not in a relationship where I'm at that point where I can say with a partner or whatever, I think we should try now, because it's a 9-month process just to be ready for fertilization and implantation, and then of course if it's successful, then you have the 9 months of pregnancy. So altogether it's well over like a year to have all of this process started, and that's a lot. That is a lot of pressure and stress to have to think about. I mean, the whole process of finding out if you're pregnant or whatever is quite a stressful and emotional situation anyway, usually very positive. But for me, I know that this could end up being something that could destroy me. And, I've had to really think about, do I want to go through that? Can I go through that mentally? And I just think, if you want something bad enough, you'll do it. And that's where I'm at now mentally, that, I'm at that point where I can say what was important to me a month ago. A lot of things I thought were important to me are no longer important to me. So, for instance, if I have to go through this process alone as a single woman, I will totally do that, because I want to be a mum that bad. I mean, if I'm in a relationship by the point where I want to start pursuing this, then great. But it will probably be early stages, because ideally, I turned 29 in December this year. Ideally, I'd like to, not be a mid-30s-year-old mum, like new mum, because we all know like the chances of a successful implantation decrease something crazy after the age of 30. So that's something I'm going to have to cross when I come to it. And, that's where it sort of leads me to moving forward and coping with the news. And, the first few days were a blur, complete blur. I don't really remember much. And as someone who has suffered with depression for quite a long time, this is not an abnormal thing for me. My memory and memory retention is awful anyway. So going through this kind of thing has kind of made that side of my depression worse, and able to remember and recall things and how I felt has been very hard to get that back on track. But overall, I'm okay. The last few days have been the first few days that I haven't, when I've woken up in the morning, my first thought hasn't been, I've got this gene. So I know that I'm making progress and I'm moving forward and I'm moving in the right direction. So this work I've been doing on myself has enabled me to cut people out of my life who were just draining me and were not contributing anything positive or things that I needed to my life. And I think for me this is only going to be positive, as much as it was upsetting to have to do that. Nobody should have to do that, because if people that are in your life are there for the right reasons and they want to be there, then you shouldn't have to do that. But unfortunately that's not always the case, and I feel immensely proud of myself for being able to do that, as hard as it was. You know, I need people around me who are going to lift me up, who are just going to push me in a positive way and be there for me when I need them to be there. So next I'm going to talk about something that I've only just started to do recently, which was invest in a self-help book. And I'm really the kind of person that doesn't like that kind of thing, like the idea of someone telling me, oh, this is how you should feel, this is how you should think about it, when they're not in that situation, they're not emotionally invested. I'm just like, no. But a YouTuber and blogger that I really like, and her name is Katrin. I can't pronounce her surname and I don't want to butcher it, but she has always been very open about mental health and illnesses and stuff like that. So I messaged her and she recommended this book. It's a really cute little size book. But yeah, I have never been into self-help books before, but I've started reading this and it's amazingly profound, like the way that you totally see how you feel through someone else's perspective and what they've been going through, because everybody has different situations, but inevitably we feel the same about ourselves, and it's nice to hear that from another person's perspective. So I'll link this book in the description box below, and you can get it for, I think I got it for £10 on Amazon, and that was on Amazon Prime as well, so it came the next day. So yeah, so I recommend that. My last thing that I wanted to say on this situation is, if you or anyone you know has someone in their family who has this disease specifically, or dementia, or cancer, and are planning to have children, or if you are watching this and you are in a situation like I was, please, I urge you to get tested, because you will be affected by it emotionally and it will be upsetting, but you will be able to prevent it from carrying on down your family tree. And I mean, nobody wants the responsibility of the chance of having passed something excruciatingly horrific on to an innocent person. I think that sort of rounds up basically everything that I wanted to say. If there's anything that you wanted to ask me, or if you wanted to find out any more information, as I said, I'll link all the links to different websites and the charity in the description box below, and all my social medias will be there if you want to talk or you want to express your concerns or anything like that. Any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, you can always message me, and I am more than willing to talk to anybody about this. And I hope that this helps someone, because I couldn't find anything like this when I was going through deciding to be tested. So I hope that this can help someone, and yeah, I hope that you can take something positive away from this very negative, heavy subject. And I look forward to hearing from you, and take care, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.